The setting was a grand political event, one of those glitzy bipartisan dinners where the country's most powerful figures traded jabs and jokes for charity. The media had dubbed it the Unity Gala, though unity seemed like a lofty goal given the tension in the air. Former President Donald J. Trump and sitting President Joe Biden were the headliners, their names in bold on every program and promotional poster. Both men had been asked to deliver a speech, lighthearted, humorous, and preferably self-deprecating. But what unfolded that night was anything but ordinary. The ballroom of the historic hotel was packed to capacity. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over rows of impeccably dressed politicians, journalists, and celebrities. The laughter and clinking of glasses filled the air as attendees chatted over their appetizers. The stage, draped in red, white, and blue, stood ready for the two political titans to take the microphone. Trump, known for his flair for theatrics, had arrived fashionably late, as usual. Dressed in a crisp tuxedo, he waved to the crowd with a broad smile, giving his signature thumbs up to a few familiar faces. Biden, seated at the head table, gave a casual wave in return, chuckling to himself. "Here we go," he muttered under his breath, leaning over to his wife, Jill. This ought to be good. The evening's host, a renowned comedian, warmed up the crowd with a few bipartisan jokes before introducing Biden as the first speaker. The president approached the podium to polite applause, his demeanor relaxed. He adjusted the microphone, squinting slightly at the teleprompter before beginning. "Well, folks, they told me to keep this short and sweet," Biden started, his tone conversational. "So, I'll try to be as brief as Trump's list of trusted advisors." The audience erupted into laughter, and even Trump, seated just a few feet away, couldn't help but smirk. Biden's speech was a mix of jokes about his own age. "I've been in politics so long, the first bill I signed was probably chiseled into stone," and light jabs at Trump. The crowd was eating it up, and by the time he wrapped up with a heartfelt call for unity, the room was buzzing with energy. Then it was Trump's turn. As Trump made his way to the podium, he paused to adjust his jacket, flashing a confident grin. The applause was thunderous, though there were a few noticeable groans from the crowd. He waved dismissively. I know," he said into the microphone, his voice booming. "You've been waiting for the main event. Sleepy Joe did okay, but now it's time for the real show." The room erupted into laughter, with Biden shaking his head good-naturedly. "Here we go," he said again, this time loud enough for those nearby to hear. Trump cleared his throat, his expression shifting to one of exaggerated seriousness. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've prepared a beautiful, incredible speech for tonight. Some are saying it's the best speech ever written. I don't know, could be true. But as he began to read, something seemed off. His tone wavered, and his usual bravado faltered as he scanned the teleprompter. The jokes didn't sound like Trump at all. In fact, they sounded oddly familiar to the audience. Trump continued, hesitating slightly, "They told me to keep it short and sweet. So, I'll try to be as brief as Biden's list of coherent speeches." The crowd froze for a split second before roaring with laughter, not at the joke itself, but at the blatant repetition of Biden's earlier quip. Trump paused, his face turning a shade of pink, but he soldiered on. "I've been in politics so long," Trump read, his voice uncertain now. "The first bill I signed was probably chiseled into stone." At this point, Biden's laughter could be heard loud and clear from his seat. "Donald," he called out, unable to contain himself, "you're stealing my material." Trump stopped mid-sentence, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about, Joe?" he shot back, his hands gesturing dramatically. "This is my speech. I wrote it myself. Everyone knows I'm the best at speeches." Biden stood, grinning ear to ear. "Don, that's literally what I just said 10 minutes ago. Did someone hand you my teleprompter notes by mistake?" The room was in hysterics now, cameras capturing every angle of this unexpected showdown. Trump waved his hand dismissively. "Fake news, folks. Joe's just upset because my speech is better than his, even when it's the same." The host stepped in, trying to mediate. Gentlemen," he said, barely able to keep a straight face, "it seems there's been a mix-up. Let's sort this out." Trump wasn't done. He leaned into the microphone, adopting his classic combative tone. You know, this just proves my point. The system is rigged, folks. Even the teleprompters are working against me. But don't worry, I don't need a script. I'll do this off the cuff, and it'll still be better than anything Joe's got. Biden, not one to back down from a challenge, walked up to the stage, gesturing for a microphone. "Oh, I'd love to see this," he said, grinning. "Let's hear it, Don. No script. Give us your best shot." Trump smirked, accepting the challenge. "Fine, Joe. But don't cry when I crush you." Here we go, folks, the greatest improvised speech of all time. What followed was a bizarre yet wildly entertaining exchange between the two leaders. Trump launched into an off-the-cuff monologue filled with his usual catchphrases and boasts. "We've done tremendous things, folks. Tremendous. No one's ever seen anything like it. And this dinner? It's fantastic, believe me. Except for the chicken, could have been a little more well done." Biden, standing just a few feet away, interrupted with his own quips. "Don, you're not supposed to roast the food. You're supposed to roast me." "Oh, I'm getting to that," Trump shot back. "But first, let's talk about how you called me a clown during the debates. I mean, who's laughing now?" The audience was in stitches, unable to believe what they were witnessing. It was less a political dinner and more a comedy showdown, with Trump and Biden trading barbs like seasoned stand-up comedians. Even the press, usually quick to criticize, couldn't help but enjoy the spectacle. At one point, Trump turned to Biden and said, "You know, Joe, for a guy who's been in politics for 50 years, you'd think you'd have better jokes." Biden shrugged, playing along. "And for a guy who's spent his life in real estate, you'd think you'd know how to build a better argument." The back and forth continued for nearly 20 minutes, with both men eventually breaking into laughter themselves. The crowd gave them a standing ovation, not for their political prowess, but for their unexpected ability to entertain and show a rare moment of camaraderie. As the event wrapped up, the host returned to the stage, still chuckling. "Well, folks," he said, "I don't know about you, but I think we just witnessed history. Forget speeches, these two should take this act on the road." Trump and Biden shook hands, still grinning as they returned to their seats. The rivalry between them remained, but for one night, they had managed to set aside their differences and share a moment of levity. As the attendees filed out of the ballroom, the buzz was unanimous. This was a night no one would forget. And while the world remained as divided as ever, for a brief, hilarious moment, it felt just a little bit closer together.